So Europe hasn't really had many victories for the right until very recently. Of course, you have right-wing governments in Eastern Europe, but it's Eastern Europe. Western Europe basically still controls most of the economy, most of the power in Europe, because of course, to the more advanced economies, Eastern Europe is, of course, because of the Soviet Union and the Soviet bloc, isn't really that economically developed outside of Greece and some of the North, and of course Finland and the Nordic countries. Geez, which Finland is technically a part of Eastern Europe as well, not Western Europe, but that because it borders Russia and then also by Estonia. But the right wing have not really done too well in Europe. Of course, in Sweden, the Sweden Democrats, which yes, despite their name, is a conservative party. Despite their name, the Sweden Democrats are not a liberal party, unlike the Democrats of America. But in Italy, something has happened. Yep. Usually, in European elections, you'll just see the same, boring, liberal party that would uphold the liberal order in Europe. But it seems that this liberal order in Europe is crashing down and is going away as well. So the big issues in Italy is the demographic crisis and immigration. That's the big two issues in Italy. And Elon Musk and other people have been talking about how Italy's demographic crisis cannot be ignored. And now the people of Italy says, "Oh yeah, this is a bad thing. We want more. We don't want population to disappear in Italy. We want people in Italy." So basically, they elected a government that wants to promote, family tradition and traditional conservative ideals. And of course, they're all, the left is all, of course, all seaweed over this. Oh, how dare you elect someone different than the, same people you elect, every, election cycle. You elect the same people every election cycle, nothing changes. It is just, and Italy is like one of the worst off countries in Europe. It has the second most debt besides Greece. And I think you're going to see more and more liberal parties fall in Europe. You can see more and more liberal parties, I think, fall in Europe. France, they almost lost in France, where it's again, and UK, they we don't have it. They just have bad food. But yeah, the UK does have bad food. That's it. But yeah, I think this is the start of the end of the liberal order in Europe, especially how it happened in Sweden. Okay, the Sweden now literally has a right wing government, as I talked about in the economy video. I think because of the decline in the world economy and the decline and the rise of inflation, you're going to see the opposition parties rise in power, take control of countries. Usually, and most of Europe is ran by left wing governments. Most of Europe, besides Poland, Hungary, and now Sweden and Italy, are ran by left wing governments. Most of Europe is ran by left wing governments. I don't know which government. I think Sweden might have a right wing government, but Sweden is a neutral country. Sweden stays out of everything. Okay, talk about EU countries. Okay, EU countries. Of course, we all know Russia. Vladimir Putin is a Russian nationalist as well and wants to restore former Russian borders. There's and we all know Poland and Hungary are two of the most nationalistic countries in Europe. So worker, and of course, this is gonna be, and I think we're going to see, the guy in Canada win as well, PL, and of course, we're going to see a resurgence of the nationalist Republican Party, not the Romney Republican Party that nobody, is gonna vote for, but because the really, the Romney establishment Republican Party, the rhinos as everybody calls them, their days are numbered. We all know their days are numbered. Okay, if you saw what happened, if you pay attention to what happened to Liz Cheney and the Wyoming election, the primary election, yeah, you know their days are numbered. You know their days are basically numbered as well. You saw incumbents go down to the worst, percentages. The establishment, establishment ones go down to the worst percentage. Of course, they still get a large portion of the votes. There's still a large portion of Republicans who still support establishment candidates, but the number is still is declining. It has declined from 2020, 2018, 2016 as well. But what happened in Italy is a crushing victory for the nationalist right, or they call it the far right, which the far right is basically now basically anyone who is the left of Stalin. Anyone who's conservative now is considered the far right. Because anyone who is left of Stalin in this world is now right wing, which is pretty hilarious now. Which means, yes, Elon Musk would be right wing because he's, the left of Joseph Stalin, the left of, all of, Chinese government, basically, all of the, basically the far left, basically. Okay. And, as well, but, as well, you know, and basically this is a, the people are always calling Italy's government a fascist government. Like they have been calling Hungary, Poland a fascist government as well. Well, so yeah. And if you really think about it, countries, a lot of Eastern European countries are technically, according to their rules, are fascist governments. Like Ukraine, the whole war started because of Ukrainian nationalism versus Russian separatism. That's really what the whole war in Ukraine started as. What Ukrainian nationalism versus Russian nationalism, because a lot of people in those regions of Ukraine don't want to be a part of a country that doesn't like them, and of course you have Russian nationalism in Russia, as well. And however, I think we're starting to see the end. And also, the left is not talking about anything about how Italy elected the first female prime minister. The left is not talking about that, which is pretty hilarious. Because they always talk about how it's such a great achievement to have the first female leader, or have a female leader as leader. But of course, if the female president or prime minister, the of course, it's not left wing. That doesn't matter. That TV doesn't matter, which is pretty hilarious that they don't care about that. But even though they were talking about that the whole time, OMG, we have our first, female this. We have our first black female this. We have our first Asian this. They always talk about the first this, but they don't. But they're not talking about how Italy just elected the first female prime minister. Oh yeah, we're not gonna talk about that because she has different political opinions than us. So yeah, and also it's pretty weird that Italy also has a Democratic Party, which is a left wing party. The so Italy has no longer had the same boring, center left parties that you can constantly elect, as well. I think we're going to see more and more left wing parties collapse because of the economic collapse that we're seeing worldwide. Because of the left wing globalism, we're seeing the collapse of globalism as well, and a return to nation borders and tradition, which is something that the left is going to have to stomach really hard, because this is, and people are saying, oh, it's not happening, but we're seeing that has happened in real time. We saw what happened in Sweden, we saw what happened in in Italy now, and the elections now coming up next is Brazil's election, which Brazil is a very strange country. We all know Brazil is a very strange country. Brazil just might elect, a left-wing government again, because Brazil is just a very strange country. That's why it's Brazil, because Brazil is a strange country. And Brazil doesn't make any sense in the world. As well. Same thing all of South America. That they're gonna just go elect whatever they want to elect. But it's talking about mostly the rest of the world, okay? Because we always see a lot of countries like India will turn back to their traditional roots. Even a country like China is returning back to their traditional roots as well. Their traditional Confucian roots, which again, Confucian is not really a religion, but it's basically what Chinese, China's philosophy is based off Confucius as well. That's what China is returning back to. You see, a lot of, Middle East going, refusing the buds on woke issues as well. The Middle East refusing to listen buds on any woke issues and listen to the UN about woke issues as well, and retaining their culture and tradition as well. And you're seeing, of course, countries like Africa, Asia, retaining the, not really East Asia, but really South Asia and stuff, retaining the family traditions and stuff as well. Well, so yep, that's basically what this video. Goodbye.